With the NFL's regular season officially in the books, it's time to start talking about end-of-year awards. And I know I'm kind of late to the party talking about this because everyone starts at about mid-season, but now that we have everybody's full body of work, we're obviously in a position where we know what these players are and we can have fully informed debates without having to say, well, this guy's on pace for X, Y, and Z. No, this guy got X, Y, and Z, and this is why he should win that award. And thankfully this year, we have some really fun conversations to have. You look at the MVP award, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have both been incredible. Very tight race there. Personally, I side with Lamar, but I think Josh has a very, very strong case as well. You look at Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley just broke 2,000 yards, arguably is an MVP candidate in his own right. And then you also have Jamar Chase, who was a Triple Crown winner, arguably the best receiver in football this year, had an absolutely incredible year. You look at Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels was incredible as a rookie, really exceeded a lot of people's expectations, including my own. Brock Bowers set rookie records as a tight end, so you've got a really fun conversation to be had there. Defensive Rookie of the Year, you've got Jared Verse, who was an unblockable menace for the Rams, as well as guys like Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, two teammates that were major part of the best defense in football. All of these conversations are really fun to be had, but you'll probably notice I left out Defensive Player of the Year, and that's because it's the one I'm currently the most interested in. You have so many fun kind of candidates this year. You have Myles Garrett, who was Myles Garrett. We all know he's going to be a game wrecker, and he absolutely was this year, despite the Browns' woes. You had Pat Surtain, who had one of the better quarter seasons I've seen in my 21 years on this planet, on a defense that managed to find their way into the playoffs. You have Danielle Hunter, who I made a video about earlier this year, had a fantastic year, also the best player on a defense that found their way into the playoffs. And then you have the subject of today's video, Trey Hendrickson, who led the league in sacks, had a very historic year in terms of where it stands all time. We'll talk a little bit more about that as the video goes on. And also just statistically was incredible among his peers this year. So I wanted to take a look at his most recent outing against the Steelers, because I genuinely believe this is a performance you can look back on if he does win the award and say, wow, this really epitomizes why he was the defensive player of the year. Because it's no secret, Cincinnati's defense was not good. But in a game the Bengals really needed to win, no one showed up more than 91 on the defensive side of the ball. So without further ado, let's go ahead, dive into the tape, and talk about why I think Trey Hendrickson has a very, very strong case for Defensive Player of the Year. Before we actually dive into the film, I want to correct a mistake I made. Towards the end of the video, I'm going to make a reference to something that I was supposed to include in the intro that I simply forgot to do. So this is me adding it here on the back end of the intro. Statistically speaking, Trey Hendrickson has been on another level this year, and I think that's best shown by the kind of all-time company he's keeping. So first and foremost, this doesn't really have to do with that, but it's also a very fun factoid. Trey Hendrickson is the first Bengal in NFL history to lead the league in sacks. Sacks started becoming tracked as an actual stat in 1982. So in the past, 42 years or whatever it is, I can't do math in my head for some reason right now. 42 years exactly, actually. Yeah. Either way, he's the first Bengal to do that, and that's pretty awesome. He was also last year the first Bengal to finish second in sacks when he had the exact same number he had this year with 17 and a half. Him having back-to-back 17 and a half sack seasons is a massive deal. There are 3 players in NFL history who have done it 3 times in a row, being Reggie White, J.J. Watt, and Mark Gastineau. J.J. Watt, obviously a future Hall of Famer. Reggie White, arguably, I should say, the best defensive end in NFL history. Additionally, Hendrickson had 3.5 sacks in this game, which marked his second game this year with 3.5 or more sacks, as in the Bengals win against the Raiders in Week 9, he had 4 sacks. Now, looking at that in a historical perspective, there is a very short list of players who have accomplished this feat. Reggie White, Chris Dolman, Michael Strahan, J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, Whitney Merciless, and Carl Mecklenburg are the only other players in NFL history to have 2 games in a season with at least 3.5 sacks. So in other words, Hendrickson tied an NFL record, putting himself in the record books. He is on pace to be the 4th player in NFL history to have back-to-back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. And even if he doesn't hit it a 3rd time, doing it back-to-back years is insane. And he had stats that we'll go over now. So obviously, as we know, Hendrickson led the league in sacks with 17.5, which is 3.5 more than the guy in second place being Myles Garrett. He also led the league in pressures by 2, having 8 more than Myles Garrett, the other like big defensive end name. His sack percentage was very, very high, a lot higher than, the big names being pulled up here. If we go specifically to sacks, I want to say he has the highest sack percentage out of the top 20 sack leaders. Pressure rate, he's also going to be very high. And if we take a look at the top pressure leaders, the top 20 or so guys, he is second only to Micah Parsons. He also led the league in quick pressures with 46. He had 2 turnovers caused by pressure. His time to sack was very quick. His time to pressure was very quick. His get off was relatively quick. Point being, statistically this year, both by counting stats and looking at some of the more advanced, like next-gen stats metrics, Trey Hendrickson was a hooper. And that's the big reason why I think he should be a DPOY candidate. But now, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the tape and take a look at his game against Pittsburgh, which I think is the epitome of why he should be a very, very strong candidate for this season. All right, so starting us off here, we're in the first quarter, about halfway through. We've got Hendrickson lined up on the right side. Go ahead and let this play out, and then we will break it down. So you see there's a bunch of adjustment going on up top. Hendrickson pays no mind to it. He's on an island, and he's going to end up getting in there. And with a little help from teammate Myles Murphy, is going to bring Russ down for the sack. So actually watching this in full, breaking it down, we already watched it in full speed. Like I said, we've got him on an island with Dan Moore over here. That's a pretty ideal matchup for Trey Hendrickson, to be completely on an island with, at best an NFL average tackle. That's a pretty great matchup. So he's going to take full advantage of it. You see Hendrickson, the big thing here is he's going to get his hands inside the chest. I know it's a little hard to see, but there's the outline of the white glove inside the chest here. And by doing that, and then getting his feet underneath of him, he's going to be able to drive Dan Moore backwards. You see he wins that rep. He absolutely dominates that rep. And then he sees a little bit of an opening here between Moore and the back Jaylen Warren, who's trying to block 58 at this point. And he's going to take advantage of that, cut inside. Dan Moore's going to step inside to try to counter that, which is going to lead Russ to try to go out and around. Hendrickson notices this, and he's going to play it very well. He tosses Dan Moore to the side. He's got his eyes locked on Russ, and with a little help from Joseph Osai there on the outside, he's going to be able to get down on top of him. And then, like I said, Myles Murphy comes in and cleans up. Watching it one more time in full speed, so just so you get the idea of the dominance here. Like I said, completely bull rushes Dan Moore, tosses him to the side, and is able to bring down Russ for a pretty solid sack there. First guy at the quarterback gets a little help there at the tail end, like I said, but that play was pretty much all Trey Hendrickson. All right, this is another really instinctive play from Hendrickson, but this time, as opposed to showing off his bull rush, he's showing off a bit of quickness here. So we've got him lined up on the left side of your screen, which means he's up against the right tackle. Of course, in Pittsburgh, this is second-year first-round pick Broderick Jones out of Georgia. So let's take a look at this play in full speed. I'm going to fast forward a little bit because there's a lot of eye candy that's not really going to matter for the purposes of Hendrickson. Just know that they're going to move 11 here around to try to manipulate the corners and the linebackers a little bit. So we take a look here once this ball is snapped. I clearly didn't go far enough. But anyways, you're going to see it's going to be a screen to Najee Harris, and Hendrickson is going to completely blow it up. Watching that one more time in full speed, because I kind of paused it halfway through there. See 70 or 57 creep up to the line, and that's when the ball snapped. So taking a look at it from Hendrickson's POV, first we have to understand what the goal of Broderick Jones 77 is here, right? So first of all, you see he's kicking backward, right? Because he's going backward, he's taking that left foot back. That signals, to Hendrickson that this is a pass pro rep from Jones, right? If it was a run blocking rep, he'd be going upfield. Because he's dropping back into a kick set, it's going to be a pass play. So Hendrickson is going to play the edge here as if he's trying to get to the quarterback. And you're going to see Jones, he plays this, what initially looks a little interesting. He's just going to kind of stand there in front of Hendrickson, see what he's going to do. Hendrickson goes around him, so he's just going to let him go. The reason he's letting him go is because on this play, his job is to get out in space and block for Najee in space, right? One of these linebackers, if they were to come down, or you get this safety to come across, whatever it may be. That is who he's really going to be responsible for on this play. The point with Hendrickson is just kind of distract him, right? Make him think it's a passing play that's going downfield, kind of buy your time with him and make him think that he is dealing with Russ in a drop back passing situation. Instead, what is going to happen is Hendrickson's going to recognize this. He sees Russ still has the ball, hasn't handed it to Najee. So he's going to go, all right, this is going to be a pass. I'm going to disrupt it. He ends up making Russ throw a bad ball. It's incomplete, falls short, hits Najee in the feet. But just a really good job here by Hendrickson playing or recognizing what the offensive line is throwing at him and then responding in tow with fantastic awareness and, kind of recognition of the play, however you want to put it. Just a really, really smart rep there by Hendrickson. And like I said, we take a look at the quickness real quick here. Just one last time. Goes right underneath of Jones. No hesitation, no need to fiddle with him. He was attacking this from a speed rusher angle, and he does so very, very well. All right, we jump over to the second quarter now. We've got Trey Hendrickson on the left side of your field once again up against Dan Moore Jr. So you're going to see Russ is going to get in the straight drop back pass game. Did not mean to pause there. I apologize to the crowd that complains that I don't let these play out enough. We'll do that one more time just to make sure y'all get a good idea of the play. So you see we got Russ in the straight drop back pass game, realizes things aren't going his way. He's going to get chased down and have to throw this ball away. So what's going to happen here if we go back just a tick further before the ball is snapped? We see Hendrickson is trying an inside release here on Dan Moore. He's trying to attack that inside shoulder. And Dan Moore, to his credit, does a good job holding up. Hendrickson he's going to use Hendrickson's momentum to kind of lead him here into this block that Sayamalu's placing. There's a lot of congestion there. So realistically speaking, if Russ can stay in the pocket here, with the way things are looking, Dan Moore's winning. This is a good block by Dan Moore. However, they're going to get a little help here from the interior. Mason McCormick, I forget what round, but the rookie out of South Dakota State is unfortunately going to get worked a little bit here. We're going to get some penetration, which is going to force Russ out of the pocket. Because Russ is being forced out of the pocket, if I could draw a damn arrow, I don't know why that was so hard. Hendrickson is going to recognize that. Eyes are always in the backfield, and he's going to play accordingly. He disengages from Moore. Moore obviously can't do anything in the position he was in. If he tried to do anything, it would be a hold, and none of this would matter anyways. So you've got Hendrickson running, stride for stride with Russ. Gets his hand up there at the last second to kind of be like, throw that ball away. Like, get out of here. You're not doing it. If he didn't get this kind of pressure here, you've got Jalen Warren breaking open here, a little bit of separation. There's a world where Russ picks up probably 5 or 6 here at the very minimum, maybe a first down. Yeah. Oh, it definitely would have been a first down. You look at the grass that Warren has in front of him, would have definitely been a first down. Instead, Hendrickson does a good job of, kind of pursuing Russ as he gets flushed out of the pocket, recovering from getting blocked into a disadvantageous situation, and forcing a second down and 10. All right, end of the second quarter here. Steelers trying to make something happen offensively, get some points on the board. There's about 16 seconds left. Got Hendrickson on the left side of your screen here, and he's going to do a great job of getting to Russ. Just plays this perfectly. Little split sack there between him and Joseph Osai. Osai kind of gets that first contact. Hendrickson ends up finishing it off. So taking a look at this a little bit, closer, right away, we're going to see Hendrickson is going to release outside because it looks like he's got Freiermuth one-on-one as a blocker. Once Hendrickson realizes that isn't the case, he's going to cut back inside, and he's just going to completely ignore Dan Moore. Dan Moore's here. He's ready. Obviously, Freiermuth is kind of going on I don't know what route he's running. I honestly don't care, but he's running some sort of route. He was on a block and release type of situation. So Dan Moore is here ready for Hendrickson. Hendrickson says, nah, I'm going to do my own thing. He sees a wide open lane to Russ here in the middle, thanks to Zach Frazier double teaming over here with Mason McCormick and Sayamalu blocking one-on-one here with Osai. Because of that, he's going to be able to loop around. Dan Moore does get a hand on him, trying his best to restrain him. It's not going to work out well. Russ is going to go down again. Osai gets the first contact. Hendrickson's able to bring him down. realistically, if you want to be picky, you could say that Hendrickson draws a hold here. You know, this isn't going to get called very often because Dan Moore has the white gloves with the white jersey. It's kind of hard to see if he's gripping fabric. But it does kind of look like to me, you know, there's only one way he's going to impede the movement of Hendrickson here. You know, we kind of see Hendrickson slow down a little bit once Dan Moore gets a hand on him. You have to hold, you know, you're not in front of him. You're running behind him. You're thinking, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. You know, that's kind of the internal monologue here for Dan Moore. And that is going to result in a big time sack. Like I said, with about 16 seconds left in the second quarter, definitely not a situation in which you want to take a sack by any means. So great job there, not only by Hendrickson, but also by Osai. All right, so this is another play like the screen he blew up earlier, because spoiler alert, this is another screen play, where you're going to see Hendrickson disrupting the game in a way other than just getting to the quarterback, right? Because obviously, when we think about edge rushers, when we think about these 4-3 defensive ends, these outside linebackers in a 3-4, whatever you want to call them, the first thing that comes to a lot of people's minds is the sack numbers. And, you know, Hendrickson has it. Back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons, has the sack title this year. But that's, to me, not what separates a lot of these guys, right? What separates these guys for me is football IQ. You know, their understanding of the game, the things they're able to get away with, the way they're able to dominate offenses, even if they can't get to the quarterback. You look at a guy like Khalil Mack as a prime example, one I always go to as a Bears fan. I love Khalil Mack. He's probably my favorite defensive player I've gotten to see play in the past 10 years. He is an incredible player, not just because he's able to get to the quarterback, but because of the havoc he wreaks against the run game because of his gap discipline, the way he's able to read quarterbacks, the way he's able to manipulate angles and strip the ball out of quarterbacks' hands. Things like that are what really make like a top tier edge rusher. Other guys, Pittsburgh's TJ Watt is a lot like that. Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons. These guys are more than just sack machines. They're game wreckers. They do more than just get to the quarterback. They disrupt offenses in any way they can. And this is a prime example of Trey Hendrickson being able to do that. So just letting it play in full speed here. Like I said, it's another screen. He gets his hand up, swats the ball away, incomplete. So taking a look at it at a closer, giving it a closer look is what I'm trying to say here. You see, he's playing wide out here as a wide 9. You've got Jaylen Warren essentially lined up as a tight end here. And Hendrickson's going to play to the outside. He sees that Warren's slipping out. So he goes, oh, okay, so I'm just going to not waste my movement, get upfield, and go up against Dan Moore. So he goes into Dan Moore and is trying to hit that corner. You get a little bit of a double team shade right here. Like it looks like they're going to double team is what I'm trying to say, with Sayamalu kind of in pursuit. However, he's just trying to chip and then get upfield to be a downfield blocker for Warren. Hendrickson, he recognizes that Russ is throwing this ball very quickly. So he's going to do what he can to get his hand up there. See, the ball just barely changes trajectory, which causes it to fly past Jaylen Warren's head. That's incomplete. Not an ideal play. You're deep in your own territory. You want to pick up quick yards. And unfortunately for the Steelers, Trey Hendrickson, just said, no, I don't think you will. And ends up swatting that pass away for his second blown up screen of the game. This is another play right here where we're talking about Trey Hendrickson, not as the guy who gets a sack or anything like that, but just as someone disrupting the flow of the offense, disrupting a play. We saw him earlier chase down Russell Wilson and force him to throw the ball away because one of his teammates was able to get pressure and force Russ out of the pocket, Here's the other end of that, right? We got Hendrickson forcing Russ out of the pocket. He's going to get chased down, forced to throw this one away. And again, deep in your own territory, not an ideal situation. So here we've got Hendrickson lined up on the outside of Dan Moore, lined up a little wide. And he's going to immediately, Dan Moore sets, kind of wide to match Hendrickson. So he's going to take advantage of that and cut into this open space right here. And he's going to get his kind of shoulder into Dan Moore to wall himself off. Now, again, credit to Dan Moore. He does what he can. You see, again, one could maybe argue a little bit of a hold there. You've got the white glove up around the throat. A lot of these top edge rushers, you can point to a lot of plays where they're getting held and it doesn't get called because at a certain point, it's just the only way you can block them. All the top edge rushers, I was going to start naming names, but if you think of an elite edge rusher, they're going to get held pretty often. And sometimes it'll get called. Most of the times it won't. Guys are pretty good at hiding the hold, so to speak. But regardless, back to the play itself. Hendrickson tries to get in there on Russ. Unfortunately cannot. Russ just slips away. But, I mean, Hendrickson's got an arm around him. You know, he's trying his damnedest. Unfortunately, he can't bring him down. Russ is forced to keep scrambling. He's got big 90 barreling down on him, so he's going to let this one rip. Makes it look like he's throwing it to George Pickens. We all know that, you know, George Pickens is incredible. He's not coming down with that. So, in other words, he has to throw the ball away. And that is another big-time disrupted play for Pittsburgh deep in their own territory, all because of Trey Hendrickson just being Trey. So we've pretty much seen it all from Trey Hendrickson in just a couple short snaps. You know, the play recognition, the power, the quickness, the ability to set up for teammates, all that kind of stuff, his ability to chase down a quarterback and force them to throw the ball away, get pressure, things like that. But this one is going to be something a little bit different, something I was really impressed with, and that's the hand usage. So right here, we've got Trey Hendrickson lined up on the right side of your screen. We'll go ahead and let this one play. Quick hand fighting there with Dan Moore, and he's able to just absolutely clobber Russell Wilson. So watching it a little bit closer, you see he's lined up wide. He cuts into Dan Moore, forces him to set out wide again. And this time, instead of trying to cut inside, he's going to go out and around and try to bring down Russ. He's going to do a great job of that. You see just swiping away at the hands. Real quick, play that one back real quick. Just swiping away at the hands. And then he bends the corner. You see the feet are underneath of him. He's able to bend the corner and use his long arm to engulf Russell Wilson and bring him down. I mean, this looks like an apex predator chasing down its prey on this play. The way he engulfs him at the end is honestly really funny. But more than anything, this play is really impressive. I could literally watch this all day. This is hand fighting 101, great bend, bring down the quarterback, finish the damn play. Just absolutely perfect stuff from Trey Hendrickson on this rep. And finally, this play right here is huge. We're inside 30 seconds. I believe there's 24 seconds on the clock at this point. Pittsburgh's trying to drive down and get in field goal range, down 2 points. This is kind of an all or nothing drive. You need your star players to step up. And that's exactly what Trey's about to do. Lined up wide once again, going to be one-on-one with Dan Moore. And he does an incredible job. Dips underneath of him, engulfs Russ, gets the sack, and he's going to hold on to him there for a second to drain a little bit extra clock. So we'll go ahead and run this one back. You see, Trey Hendrickson's just quicker than Dan Moore. Dan Moore is trying to haul ass by skipping out there. You see, he's almost too afraid to set out wide because he knows Trey's just going to cut back inside from what he's done all game. So he has to haul ass to get over there. And at this point, Trey Hendrickson's already got the angle he wants. He wants to go around. Dan Moore is sideways. He's not able to wall off Russ like he'd like to, excuse me. He gets the hands on him, but at this point, Trey Hendrickson is already underneath of him. He's got his feet running. He's slipping underneath of him. Russ feels this pressure coming down from 52, and he also feels the pressure coming from Trey, so he's going to try to slip through here, make something happen. And once again, Trey Hendrickson says, nope, Russ, you're going to sit right down. That's going to end the play. Ends up just engulfing him once again. Just a really clutch sack from Hendrickson to hit that 17.5 total. Obviously, this was his final sack of the season. Puts him with, I forget the names I said at the beginning of the video. Yeah, I'll pop them up on screen. I said them at the beginning of the video. He's in very, very good company with his back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons and having two 17.5 sack seasons, period. Puts him in very, very good company. But watching that one more time in full speed, poor Dan Moore, man, he really was trying his best here. I mean, he is hauling ass to try to get back there to block Trey Hendrickson, but alas, Trey Hendrickson he's just Trey, man. He's just a little too quick, and he's able to absolutely engulf Russ for the sack on a major play. Obviously, the Steelers would not be able to come up with a field goal in this drive, and they'd end up losing. Bengals win a much-needed game, or a much-needed must-win game to try and get in the playoffs. Didn't end up happening because of Denver's big win over the Chiefs, but I digress. The Bengals did what they needed to in this game, and Trey Hendrickson really came to play in arguably the most important game of the season. And if that's not being a superstar, I don't know what is. But anyways, folks, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like down below. It helps out the channel a ton, shows your support, shows you care, and I really do appreciate it. Also, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. Do you think Trey Hendrickson should win Defensive Player of the Year? If you do, tell me why. If you don't, tell me who you think should win it. I think it's a very tight race between a couple guys this year. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm fully convinced myself Trey Hendrickson should be the runaway favorite. In fact, I don't think there is a runaway favorite. That was a bad way of putting it. I think it's a tight race between guys like him and Myles Garrett and Pat Surtain, especially. I think Danielle Hunter's another name I want to throw in that conversation, but even then, I think he's a little bit lower tier of a candidate this year, unfortunately, as opposed to what I was thinking mid-season. But regardless, definitely make sure to let me know your thoughts on the DPOY race in the comments below. And also make sure to subscribe for more film breakdowns. We're getting into the playoffs. We're going to have weekly playoff videos. And then in the offseason, too, we're going to go heavy in the NFL draft. We're going to be talking about different draft prospects, kind of doing mock drafts, things like that. Also going to be talking about this past season as well. There's some players I want to highlight. So definitely subscribe. You won't want to miss any of that. But above all else, again, I hope you all enjoyed. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you truly do deserve it.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder. Wow.
Using that